Hello, welcome to the stream, Aidan, Philip, and anyone else who's in here. Hi Pranjal, welcome to the stream. We should have a few more joiners for this league race today. But, yeah, we're just seeing... some of them are question marks, so... they don't know if they can make it. We've got Josh Homer in. Someone's just left. I don't know who did. Yeah, just waiting for. Oh, there might be a crash in the Wall of Champions. Good luck, Aiden, and yeah, just as long as you don't do a Latifi like Pranjal said, you should be fine. It's Sam who went. His Wi-Fi's actually crashed. So we've got to wait for Sam again. Which gives a few more opportunities for other people to join. Hopefully we do get other people in here. But my Wi-Fi seems to be a bit bad as well, if you look on the right hand side. Hopefully it's... oh no. Oh, yay. Oh no. Yay. Oh. Alright, okay. We're waiting for Scotty as well. Using the Alfa Romeo. I have got my pronunciation of people's names from last week after being educated. Mathers, I think that's correct, and Scotty instead of Scotty. So I've got to try and remember that throughout the race, and yeah. Yeah, hopefully we get going soon. Hopefully we get more people in. And Sammy's in. Sam's back. We'll go on a little bit of a race recap from last week, and there's Scotty as well. So we've got everyone in here. We've got 11, which is a good turnout to who actually checked in. But yeah, we've got a little race recap just before quali, and someone's gone. Someone else has gone now. I don't know who that was. I'm a bit blind. But yeah, race recap then. Last week we had a very mad Silverstone. It was Fishy and O'Sheen in the first race who were battling for the race lead. JDM also in there a little bit in the McLaren. Oh, and talking about Fishy, he's the one who's lagged out, so we think we've got to wait for him again. But yeah, in the second race, because of a restart, due to the game being bad, and giving Josh Tomo a disqualification for no reason, we had to have a restart, and from lap 9, so that meant that Fishy was still on pole, well, in the race lead, and JDM and Oshin actually had a crash on, I think it was lap 2, which meant that Oshin was out. He nearly rolled the car. That caused a virtual safety car, I think. And then throughout the race, Fishy was just dominating all the way through. We had a battle between Rally Josh and Aiden. Rally Josh and Aiden for P2 or 3, which was quite good to see. And then we had a late safety car because of FNCO Tom crashing out, and that caused drivers to pit from the soft tyres. They wanted new soft tyres, and they thought that the safety car would be out until the final lap, but it wasn't, and that was quite good luck for Fishy because he had picked up quite a few penalties, and then he lagged out on the final corner, and of course also on the final corner we had Sam in the podium positions, came across the line in third, but he missed out by 0.039 off the podium from Josh Tomo, who was chasing him down. So your podium last week was Fishy, Aiden, and then Josh Tomo, and Sam just about missing out. He'll be hoping to get up there again so he can fight for the podium once more. But we go into qualifying now, time that just right, and it's a wet qualifying. So already early drama this week for ERL. Round 11 of Season 2. We will wait and see who's the first out on track. Of course, this could dry up this wet weather, so we might not have anyone out on track until the late stages of qualifying. So it might be a bit of a boring one, but we'll see who decides to risk it, who decides to go out on the inters. Of course, this could also get worse, and we've got that's JDM and an Alpha Tauri of Philip, who's out on track first. So they're on the intermediates. This rain, as I was saying, could get worse. So if it does, then they'll want to get their laps in early, because they won't be able to improve by too much if they don't. We've got JDM as well. After that crash, like I mentioned with Oshin last week, he was really far out of it. A safety car is all he was hoping for. He got that, but the safety car went in very early, and it only managed to pick up Fishy in the race lead for about a lap, and then it went in. So Josh Tomo got his first podium in ERL last week. He got third, just about, as I mentioned. He'll be in the Mercedes once more. Last week he couldn't take part in qualifying because he was late to the session. So this week he might be able to put it up at the front. Also, I know Josh Tomo, and he's very quick in the intermediate conditions. Yeah, so this might be a Josh Tomo dominant one, at least in qualifying. We don't know the weather for the race, of course. But behind Josh Tomo is Sam, the man that he stole the podium from, and the man that I mentioned so much last week. I was basically fanboying over Sam because of how much he'd improved. Oh no! And he's lost his front wing. Reset to track. That might be an unsafe one. But Oshin, his teammate for this week, going through, and yeah, he will be starting his lap soon. We've got the two Ferraris of Aiden and FNCO Tom, but starting the lap is Philip. 22.9 through the first sector, nearly losing the back end through those corners. Ryan's joined, so we've got an extra driver, but he won't be able to take part in qualifying. But now with Philip, along this straight, no DRS of course. There is meant to be 3 DRS zones for the dry conditions, that being one of them. But yeah, obviously it's wet, so they don't get the DRS. But now into the hairpin, it's a 48.0 through the second sector. A nice tight line through the hairpin and a nice exit. Taking it a bit cautious though. Doesn't want to spin, of course, like we saw Sam. do on his outlap. But now, down this other DRS straight, we go. And then into the heavy braking zone of the Wall of Champions. Will he survive that? Yes, he does. He takes it nice and easy through there, making sure he gets the car across the line to set a 119.8 in the wet conditions. Next up is going to be JDM, and he goes through Wall of Champions. It seems to be a lot more aggressive, and he goes a 119.3, 5 tenths quicker than Philip. Now it's Josh Tomo, even more aggressive through the Wall of Champions, and across the line he goes to set a 118.4. 9 tenths quicker than JDM. Now we go to Oshin. Had very bad luck in Silverstone. He's had bad luck all season. Now down the final straight he goes to the line, and he goes a 119.1. That's still 7 tenths behind Josh Tomo. Next is going to be Josh Tomo's teammate, who has FNCO Tom, who's invalidated. So he's going to go again. The next one will be Aiden, who's also invalidated. So both Ferraris not doing too good with the track limits there. Philip, I don't know if he's going for it again. He seems to be going full throttle, so he might be. And he's used a bit of ERS, so we'll stay with him and see if he peels into the pit lane or goes around the final corner. He goes around the final corners. No, he doesn't. He brakes for him, but he goes into the pits. JDM, is he going to improve? He's going through the final corner, so he's maybe improving. A lot more aggressive through the Wall of Champions, nearly doing Kevin Magnussen from 2019 here. But he goes up to P2. He's only 4 tenths away from Josh Tomo, which is pretty good for JDM standards. And he spins it at turn 1. So nice one to celebrate, JDM. Josh Tomo has invalidated on his next lap. Oshin has also invalidated. Sam is about to start his new lap. He's managed to not get front wing damage. Fishy coming out for his first out lap. About to start his flying lap. Oh, and he hits the champion of the Wall of Champions there. I nearly done a Kavitsa saying champion of wall. If I do that, I do apologise. I do quote that a lot. It's quite funny to me. But yeah, Fishy clipping the Wall of Champions. But through the final corner goes FNCO Tom. He's invalidated once more as Scotty... No, it's Mathers now. Starting his lap, but he's invalidated on both laps. Aiden now crosses the line and he goes P4, 119.3. Interestingly, Philip has gone onto the soft tyres. So maybe he's planning to go out right at the end and not do another lap. Of course, all of these guys who haven't set a lap are probably also waiting for the dries, like Nova and Scotty. But the rest of them, Sam... I don't know what Sam was doing there. He's missed the corner. Josh Tomo's about 1.5 tenths down on his time. As he found it through the straight, though, he seems to have. He might think that he's got a bit more time in the final corner, but that definitely won't gain it him as he loses the back end through the Wall of Champions. He doesn't go quicker. He's about 8 tenths down, but he seems to be going again, taking a nice turn 1 there, as much track limits as he can on the strict corner cutting. Now it's Sam who's invalidated, so he's going to go again, but he's invalidated this lap too, so he won't be going again. Now it's FNCO Tom. Can he keep it clean through the final 2 corners? Will he invalidate? No, he doesn't. It looks like a nice final chicane there for FNCO Tom. He goes across the line to set a 118.7, only 3 tenths off his brother. And he might be looking to go for it again, as that was a nice turn 1. Now it's Mathers who goes to start his first flying lap. Oh, and he invalidates it straight away. So he doesn't even get a shot at it, really. But yeah, Ryan's in the Merc. He can't set a lap, but he can go out to confirm his setup. As we're going to go to Sam again, he is invalidated once more. So our drivers are really finding this difficult to keep it clean with the track limits. Of course, only 6... Oh, and Sam's done the same as what he did on the outlap. He hasn't managed to damage his car, though. Of course, a reset to track is allowed, as Josh Tomo goes another 4 tenths quicker. I didn't even notice he was going for another lap. I thought he would have came in. But yeah, he goes 4 tenths quicker, and that means he's 7 tenths ahead of the opposition. but he hasn't validated this lap. I'm sure he's fueled himself enough for multiple laps. Yeah, Fishy's coming back out the pits. He's going to move out the way for Sam, who's already invalidated. Once again. Through the final corner goes Mathers, and he's lost his front wing. The champion of Wall gets its first victim. And that is Mathers. Of course, he has to go a whole lap before he gets back to the pits to repair that. Because he just about missed it. That final corner being just past the pit lane entry. But yeah. Unlucky for Mathers. DRS is enabled, so it's actually dry enough for the slick tyres. Which is very interesting as it looks soaking wet out on track. Josh Tomo comes into the pits. There's a bit of debris at the final corner, so maybe something for our drivers to look out for. But on the softs, in this kind of weather, out comes Aiden, out comes Oshin as well. But look at the spray still coming off the tyres. Surely it's not dry enough for those yet. It's not raining, but the spray is just a lot still. He looks like he's got a lot of grip, but he does invalidate on his outlap as he goes a bit wide. Yeah, very interesting, this game, of course. Oh, and that's a spin. That is for Ryan. Oh, and he's gone again. He's clouted the wall. But yeah, all of the other drivers now are coming out on the softs, interestingly. And we'll check how Aiden does on his first lap. The first lap on the slicks, of course, of anyone. And it's going to be Aiden to do so. And let's see how much grip he has on the flying lap. Of course, it's dry enough because DRS has been enabled. So, yeah, the game playing tricks on us. As it has the whole of this game cycle. But through the final chicane goes Aiden. Still a bit tentative through there. But he opens the DRS and crosses the line to start his lap. Into turn 1 we go. A nice turn 1 from Aiden there. Hooks it up nicely for turn 2. On the exit there, straight on the throttle. So he's got enough grip as the rain still streams down the camera. Through these corners, which is very easy to invalidate on, but he gets away with it nicely. Through the first sector line, it's a 21.2. Of course, the first sector that we ever saw on this session was a 22.9 from Philip. So that's only a little tiny bit faster than Philip's fastest sector. But interestingly then, Josh Tomo is on the mediums, as we still watch Aiden nicely through these corners. He's not doing too much with the track limits. Which is always good to see. You like to see drivers respecting the track limits, as that's what they're there for. But yeah, he goes through the hairpin now. This nice camera to view where he's, I don't know, where his driver's looking. But now down the DRS straight, the longest one on the circuit, that leads you down into the heavy braking zone, going about 201 miles per hour. Through the final chicane he goes, not invalidating there. Opens the DRS. It was a nice last chicane, so he might get the good run. And it's a 114.9, so it's obvious that it's still not dry enough, as I know that Aiden can do the 109s. But Oshin now goes across the line soon, and it's a 113.5, 1.4 seconds quicker as Philip leaves the session. Now it's the Williams of Nova, who's about to start his lap. So his first flying lap, his first time out on track in this session. Next is going to be Sam, but he's going to go into the pits as the drivers are quicker. No, he's not. Oh, yeah, he is. Very confusing there. As Fishy, he came out at the wrong time. Because he had to do an extra lap now on the inters, as he came out just when everyone was going out on the dry tyres. So that's FNCO Tom now going through there. About to set a lap. He's 3.4 seconds up. He crosses the line and goes for 113.0. The track ever evolving, which you'd expect, of course. As Ryan now is on his out lap. He looks to be going for it. I don't know if he's been told that he he shouldn't be going for a lap, but that is Aiden slowing down before the final chicane, trying to get the best run possible and not invalidate both of his laps. but he starts his new lap now as Oshin is coming to set another lap, and it's a 1:12.5. So we've seen 5/10 difference each time from Oshin and FNCO Tom between one another. Now it's going to be Nova. His first lap is invalidated. It would have been a 1. Oh, and that's exactly the same time as FNCO Tom. If that had have been a valid lap, then he would have set the exact same time as FNCO Tom. The two Alfa Romeos are both going to set their laps. Scotty invalidates. That's his first time out on track this whole session. But next we're going to go to a Ferrari, which is FNCO Tom. He's 9/10 up through the final chicane. He goes nicely through there, leaving it very close with the wall though. Catches the grass a little bit on the exit, but he goes a 1:11.8. That's a 7/10 improvement from Oshin. But now we go to Ryan. His first lap as well, he has invalidated. It's a 1:15.7, so he backs off anyway throughout that lap. A nice turn one there, taking it aggressively with the track limits. Now it's Aiden. What can he do? He goes a 1:11.0. That's another 8/10 improvement to put Aiden on provisional pole position for the Canadian GP here in ERL for round 11. Now we go to Nova to see if he's invalidated. Yes, he has. He goes straight into the pits to get a new set of fresh soft tyres. I don't know why I said new fresh, but here goes Scotty anyway. A bit of an awkward line through the final chicane, but he doesn't invalidate for his next lap, which is lucky, which is what he wants. So now he goes for it. Mathers also did the same, and he's done the same for this lap as well, as JDM's coming to start his first dry lap of the session, and we get Sam as well to start his first dry lap of the session. We go to Ryan. Is he going to set another lap? Oh, and he hits the wall of champions there a little bit. But he sets a 1:09.9. That is a 2 second... No, not a 2 second improvement. A 1.1 second improvement from Ryan. Here goes Aiden, a 1:10.6. Of course, those are old soft tyres. He might have wanted to pit to go on to fresh softs instead of setting that lap, as it didn't improve him up any position. So he might actually be in a compromised position now. As we go to JDM, who will... No, it won't be the next one. It will be Scotty, who's invalidated once more. Mathers as well has invalidated. So it is going to be JDM who's going to set the next flying lap. Will he be able to have the pace to go on provisional pole at the moment? He goes through the final chicane. Nice and aggressive through there. That is very aggressive, and he is not invalidated. He goes to the line to set a 1:09.4. JDM is on provisional pole for your Canadian Grand Prix. Next is going to be Sam, who's also invalidated. Unfortunate for him. Next will be Ryan. No, he won't. He comes into the pits, but Josh Tomo now going on his first dry lap of this session. He's got to make this one count, as he'll only have one more opportunity to go for another one. So he's got to make them both count, really, and not invalidate. But Aiden is going to cross the line once more. But he's saved up his battery, actually, on this lap to go for it again. For this one final time it is. Fishy's only got one attempt at a dry lap, as that was Philip crossing the line to start his lap. Nova as well on his next new dry lap. And Scotty looks to not be setting a lap again. But Mathers also the same. He's not invalidated on that lap. I don't know why he didn't go for it in the final corners. But FNCO Tom, one final shot for him as well at a lap. As we go to Sam. Seems to be the next one. JDM hasn't got another chance. He's gone into the pits. But here goes Sam for his first dry lap. He crosses the line and goes P4 ahead of FNCO Tom. But gets replaced by Josh Tomo, who only goes P3. Josh Tomo is not on pole position, which is what I was expecting to happen. He only goes P3, so he's going to go for it again, though. I believe he's got the time. He's not got the checkered flag next to him. Oshin goes P2. He's got another shot at it as well. But now Fishy takes provisional pole off his teammate JDM. Aiden doesn't improve on his lap. Here comes Philip to the line. He sets us 111.2, goes P7. Now Nova, who goes P7 as well, 110.7. But now I think that Josh Tomo has actually been held up on his lap. No, he hasn't. He's about a tenth and a half down on his lap, but he's going to have the slipstream from Oshin down the straight. Or is that Sam? That is Sam, and he's also on the lap. He's also improving. He's up by 2.5 tenths. Through the final chicane he goes. This is going to hinder Josh Tomo. Through the final chicane now. Josh Tomo gets a better run. He's going to use the slipstream. Sam doesn't use DRS. He's completely forgot about it. But Josh Tomo goes P4 ahead of his teammate. It's still not pole position. Sam goes P9. FNCO Tom didn't get to improve. And the two Alfa Romeos outside the top 10, who will get their free choice of tyres, of course, didn't set a lap. So it's a McLaren front row lockout as Oshin only manages to get P3. He didn't improve on that lap. So it's a McLaren front row lockout. I think that's the first front row lockout of the season. I'm not sure. I think that Mercedes done it a few times. But it's the first one for McLaren, I'm sure. But they secure the front row, which is very good in their defence of P2 of the Constructors' Championship. But there is your final grid. Fishy getting pole by nearly 3 tenths over JDM, his teammate, who's about a tenth ahead of Oshin, who's about less than a tenth ahead of Josh Tomo, and then 3 tenths behind Josh Tomo is Ryan. Another 7 tenths behind Ryan is Aiden. Another tenth behind Aiden is Nova. 5 tenths behind Nova is Philip. Sam is next, and then FNCO Tom. I didn't get to read the timings. But now we see if we have a wet start to the race, or if it's even gonna be wet. Oh no! It is wet. So the drivers who went out on track were probably trying to just get a bit more experience in the wet conditions. Of course, it's intermediate tyres by the look of it in the garages. You can see the intermediate tyres there. But the drivers who went out on track quite early in qualifying, trying to make the best of the intermediate conditions so they can get used to them for this race. As we now count down to the formation lap. So there's your predicted pit stop strategy. It's a one stop onto intermediates. Of course, we don't know the weather, which would be useful, of course, if we knew if it was going to get dry or if this weather was going to get worse or stay the same. And then maybe we could try and predict a pit stop strategy ourselves. I don't have the source for information of BBC One News or Channel 4, as Cameron likes to say, if you don't know Cameron. Cameron is commentator in my league and a good friend of mine. But it's a McLaren 1-2 then. We're going to enable everything to see what is going on down the grid. But yeah, Fishy P1, JDM in P2, Oshin P3 in the Red Bull, Josh Tomo P4 followed by his teammate Ryan. Aiden in 6th, got compromised by staying out on the same set of softs and not being able to improve. Then it's Nova in the Williams. I think that this is his first race in ERL. I am not entirely sure. Then it's Philip in P8, Sam in P9, where he actually started last week, I think. He started P9 last week, and of course he went on to get P4, nearly a podium. Then it's FNCO Tom in P10, the slowest qualifier, and then the two Alfa Romeos who didn't manage to set laps. But backing them all up is Oshin, and Josh Tomo went into the back of him by the look of it, as he suddenly may have braked. But this is an advantage for the two McLarens now, and of course for the drivers behind Oshin and Josh Tomo, because they may get a bad start due to cold tyres. And the rest, of course, have got lovely warm tyres. Philip also backing up the rest of the pack. So there's a bit of a gap difference between all of our drivers. That's an Alfa Romeo so far back. Scotty, but he's not even warming up his tyres, which is what I don't get. He's done this to stay as far back as possible to try and give the other drivers cold tyres. But he wasn't even weaving down that straight to warm up his own. So I can't really see the point in that. As now we look to the lights as Scotty gets in his grid position for the Canadian GP here in ERL. And here we go then. We're going to go to the lights when the game's ready. As we go to 1 light, 2 light, 3, 4 and 5 red lights to the Canadian GP here in ERL for round 11. It's a slow start, of course, but to turn 1 we go. O'Sheen gets an amazing start and he's looking to challenge for the lead. Already into turn 1, it's 3 wide between the two McLarens and O'Sheen, but once again in ERL, Fishy and O'Sheen going side by side. Once more, like they did in Silverstone. O'Sheen's trying to hang it around the outside, but Fishy at his home race covers it off, and that's JDM shoving Ryan off the track a little bit there, trying to be as aggressive as possible with his defence. But Ryan's going to send one down the inside of JDM. There's a bit of argy-bargy there. We've seen these two had a little bit of a crash in my league on a couple occasions, but there's absolute chaos back here. I think that Nova was spun, but it's actually FNCO Tom who's managed to spin. But O'Sheen's up into P2. Ryan's had to cut that chicane a little bit there, so he might gain a little bit of an advantage on JDM out the corner. Is he going to send it up the inside of the hairpin? No, yes he is. He goes for a late move. Oh, and there's contact between the two of them. That was a very late move from Ryan to do that. So contact was inevitable there between the two of them. But JDM and Ryan still going side by side now. Down the straight we go. One of them's got to back out here. It's very impossible to go side by side in the drive through this corner. But none of them back out. And they're going to go side by side and a bit of argy-bargy over the curbs. Josh Tomo's also going to go for the move on his teammate Ryan. We get a bad camera angle. Ryan's lost 2 positions now. 1 to Aiden, 1 to Josh Tomo. But Aiden looking to challenge Josh Tomo into turn 1, not going for anything, but the 2 cars who have had to pit for damage is Nova and Mathers, getting very unlucky on lap 1. But this battle for P3 is probably going to be a race long one, like we saw at Silverstone. It was actually JDM, Josh Tomo, and Aiden for this, of course. Rally as well, but Rally isn't with us this week. Oh, and that's Aiden. He's spun and he's took Ryan with him as well. Ryan's reversing back on the track. That is very dangerous from Ryan, but he gets a penalty for a serious collision. Aiden damages front wing, trying to get the right way around. I can't speak. I can't get my words the right way around. But Ryan loses his front wing. Aiden with no damage. But Fishy still leads his home race by about 8 tenths now to O'Sheen, who nearly loses the back end there in the background. Loses about 2 tenths. But Philip and Sam battling for P5 now, the two of them, in the AlphaTauri and the Red Bull. Down the straight we go, of course. No DRS in the wet conditions. There's a spin for the Alfa Romeo of Mathers. He's not managed to get going. Now he has, as Fishy sets the fastest lap. But Sam looking to get the better exit on Phil. JDM and Josh Tomo though going for the little battle into turn 1 and 2. JDM covers the inside of turn 2, tries to squeeze out Josh Tomo, does it nicely there, nice and clean and well judged. But Josh Tomo's going to hang it round the outside of JDM. There's a bit of contact. JDM nearly hits the wall, but Josh Tomo is through into P3. We've got another bunch of cars pitting. The 2 Ferraris, Ryan and Nova. Once more, Nova making another stop, but that's a yellow flag for some reason. JDM nearly loses the back end there through that corner. Yeah, all pitting for damage limitations. But O'Sheen, after that mistake, has dropped to 1.5 behind Fishy in the McLaren. It's all going mayhem here at Canada in this wet weather. No one can seem to get away from the track limits in qualifying, and no one can seem to get away from spinning or crashing here in the race. But the gaps are more or less over a second, except for Aiden, who's in P12 right behind Nova, who's had to already pit twice. But Josh Tomo gets a penalty for multiple warnings. So interestingly, Josh Tomo's the first one to really bite the dust with the penalties, other than Scotty, who got his penalty quite early on. But Aiden trying to put the pressure on Nova. JDM now gets a penalty for the track limits. That's through the second chicane, which is turn 3 and 4. As this track is basically made up of chicanes and straights, there's only one corner that isn't a chicane, and that is the hairpin going onto this straight. Scotty now gets another penalty for the track limits. Oshin's 2 seconds behind his rival Fishy, but Aiden managing to close through the wall of champions we go. And now down the straight, is Aiden going to send one to the inside of Nova? No, he isn't, but Nova goes a bit deep on the brakes maybe, rather than Aiden. So maybe Aiden can get a better exit out of this corner, but he doesn't, and he has to stay behind for at least another lap or until the next straight. But yeah, all of these corners, corners that you can battle into, I'd say, except for the final 2 corners and the one at the end of the second DRS straight. But Ryan now closing in on Mathers. This is the closest on track. Of course, this is going a bit quieter than the Silverstone race last week. That was absolute mayhem all the way through. But now, here goes Ryan. He's going to use his ERS. So is Mathers. Ryan having a bit more, but of course that doesn't matter. They've still got the same amount of deployment. Ryan stops using his. He brakes later into the corner, but he has to brake a bit more in the end of that. Oh, and Aiden looking for the move on Nova. Maybe looking for the better exit, which he does get, but he runs out of deployment. So he might be looking into turn 1, but Aiden backs out of it there as Nova cut across a little bit. But Nova's tightened up his turn 2 line, which could give Aiden the advantage out of the corner, but it doesn't by too much. But Ryan now gets a penalty, and that's a yellow flag. That is for Scotty. Oh no, it's not. It's for Sam. Sam has spun once again. That's the 3rd time this weekend that Sam has spun. Oh, and that was a bit of an unsafe... Oh, and it's a safety car. Very odd here at Canada for a safety car from a spin. So this is the type of race that we're going for then. Little blimps of craziness. And maybe a bit glitchy as well, like last week, since we've got a safety car just for a spin. But this, of course, brings the pack all together, which is good for us, as we get a bit more entertainment. But now, from P5 downwards, except for Mathers and Ryan, and of course Aiden and Nova, are all pitting for new intermediates. Nova actually decides to come in, Aiden doesn't. Of course, there's only a 5-lap difference when the drivers come out of the pit. But will we see our 2 race leaders, Fishy and Oshin, pit for the new Inters? Maybe even Josh Tomo and JDM as well. Fishy's really the one to make the call here. And he doesn't go in, but Oshin does the opposite to what Fishy does. Josh Tomo also stays out. He wants that track position. That'll give him a good shot at going for the lead on the safety car restart. JDM also does pit in, so maybe Fishy not pitting because JDM was going to come in. He didn't want to hinder his teammate too much, but I can't see why that would happen, as Sam gets a penalty for multiple warnings through that chicane. I think that's like 1, 2... The 3rd chicane, right. Okay. Oh no, actually. I don't know if you'd class... No, that's not a chicane. So, all but 2 corners are really a chicane on this track. Yeah, everyone now able to close up to one another under this safety car. This is going to be a fierce battle for the lead. Of course, Fishy and Josh, I think that they're quite good friends. But when it's all down to a race win, you forget your friends on the track and you just go for it. So we could see a bit more respectful racing, but I'm sure that Josh Tomo's not going to hold back just because Fishy's a good friend of his. Because we can't really commentate on much since it is a safety car, but once this safety car does come in, I'm sure that we'll have a lot to commentate on. As Mathers picks up the penalty. As I'm just trying to get our BBC One weather report from a certain driver. Okay, so the whole race is meant to stay wet, so we might not see any DRS action during this race. And maybe even get wetter. So we could see the full wets in action and a few more pit stops. But what that means is the drivers who haven't pitted, Fishy, Josh, Mathers, and really Ryan, those have got the biggest tyre age. Oh, and Aiden. What that means for them, as it's going to stay wet, is that they maybe should have came into the pits for those fresh intermediates, so then they have more chance of getting them to the end. Of course, different drivers have different confidence levels on how far they can get the tyres. Some know and some don't know. But I'm sure that these drivers, as they are very quick drivers, know that they can maybe get these tyres to the end of the race, especially through the safety car. But what they really need to gamble on now, to not lose too much time, if they do have to stop again, to Oshin and JDM and all the others who have pit, is another safety car. They need to gamble on another safety car, otherwise they will be further down the order. Of course, unless everyone, the gap field spread, whatever you want to call it, is massive. But I'm assuming the safety car is going to be in this lap. We'll find out now. And yes, the safety car is in this lap. So we're going to get back to racing. We're going to see, will Josh Tomo go for it into turn 1? And will Fishy keep this lead? And what other drama further down the field will this safety car restart bring us? Fishy's warming up the tyres like crazy. So are the rest of the drivers. Trying to get those heat, of course. They are going very slow. They're under a limiter right now. So they need to keep this temperature by weaving a lot, like what Fishy is doing. But when will Fishy go for this safety car restart? Will he go before the chicane, or will he go on the exit, or right before the line even, which could cause more drama? But he's going to go for it before the chicane, I think. No, he is not. Oh no, and he nearly lost the back end there as he goes for it late, and Josh Tomo is going to go for the move up the inside of turn 1, and they're going to go side by side through turn 2 as well. Fishy with the inside line. He's going to have a compromised exit compared to Josh Tomo. Less traction on the inside, of course. But now, Fishy down the inside. Josh Tomo on the outside. A bit of contact made between the two of them. Josh Tomo is ahead of Fishy for now. But they're still going side by side. Through the whole of Sector 1, they've been side by side. Fishy goes down the outside of Josh Tomo. Into the chicane they both go. Fishy has to back out. Josh Tomo is up into the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix here in ERL. Also, JDM looking for the move on O'Sheen for this safety car restart. He got a great one. He's not going to go for the move, though, into this third chicane. He has to cut it a little bit there as he goes too deep on the brakes. But both McLarens really losing out on this restart. As O'Sheen nearly goes, and he does go into the back of Fishy. Pushes him a bit wide there and allows O'Sheen to go for the move down the inside, but he backs back out of it and waits for the slipstream down this main straight. Uses his ERS. He's going to pull to the outside. That's a yellow flag, and Aiden and Mathers are out, and that's another safety car. Fishy is going to pit in. Josh Tomo has to stay out. So it's more controversy here at Canada. The two, the Ferrari and the Alfa Romeo, both crashing out of this race after the hairpin. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but Aiden's car despawned first, so I'm guessing that he actually spun, and maybe Mathers hasn't seen him, and he's just gone straight into the side of Aiden and made both of them retire. But that's, of course, only me assuming, as Sam loses a few positions under the safety car. I think he's had a little bit of a spin. But Josh Tomo on very old intermediates now. Fishy on the freshest intermediates, and they're both at opposite ends of the grid. But that was a good call from Fishy. Exactly what he needed, that safety car. Shows that he's listening to my commentary or something. Which is very nice. But anyway, to whoever's in the stream, welcome. This is our second safety car now, in about 2 laps, or a lap, something like that, as Mathers once again goes away from this weekend, or well, this race weekend, in disappointment. Also Aiden, after getting P2 last race, DNFing, that's of course not what he wanted. But what Fishy needs to do now is really make the most of these tyres. Try and get up the grid as quick as possible, as Scotty now pits in for the fresh intermediates. So now he's going to be on the fresher intermediates. Yeah, Fishy needs to make the most of those tyres, those fresh tyres. There's not much of a difference, of course, to the drivers ahead of him, but there definitely will be to Ryan and Josh Tomo, the two Mercedes, both on very old intermediates, not very old, but older than the rest of the field. So that could prove crucial. Of course, they might need to pit again, but if we're going to get the same amount of safety cars, or the same rate of safety cars as what we've got so far, then who knows, those two Mercedes could get to the end of the race, which could be the advantage of staying out, of course. But O'Sheen as well, he's the man who's got the move to make on Josh Tomo. He's on 6 lap fresher tyres than what Josh Tomo is, so he should have the grip down into turn 1 and off the restart to go for that move on Josh Tomo. And the safety car should be in this lap. Yes, it is. I predict once again, and I get it right. I'm just going to check chat before this safety car restart. Oh, and Josh Tomo did actually say in the chat, wet race, by the way, 83% all the way through, so around inters. Okay. So I didn't see that. Sorry, Josh Tomo. I believe that you're the BBC One News. I think that's what you get classed as in my league anyway, but we'll forget that anyway. You've got a safety car restart to focus on, and we will see when he decides to go for it. There's a bit of swapping positions back there between Fishy and Scotty and Sam. Also, before I checked chat, there was a bit of swapping positions between Nova and Tom, and Josh hasn't gone for it off the chicane. Oh, and that might have fooled a few people as they're all backing up. This could be a Magello situation, and we nearly see a crash as Fishy's. Oh no, and it is a Magello situation. We've got a Red Bull on top of the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo, a double DNF, and that is another yellow flag. But Fishy is up into P1. I'm sure that was a lot of illegal overtakes from Fishy there. JDM is out as well. Oh, and there's a crash. That is a big crash. It's between Oshin and JDM once more in this race. So both Alfa Romeos are now DNF'd. A Red Bull off Sam and JDM in the McLaren. That was an absolute mess of a restart. It's not a safety car. But Josh Tomo's left the session, so I do think that this is going to be a restart. I should imagine so, as it's... Yeah, it's... Yeah, a restart. So once more in ERL we get a restarted race, which has never been good for the man in fourth, Oshin. He's always come off worse in the restarted races, as in Imola when we had to restart that race he DNF'd, and in Silverstone last time out you saw he DNF'd. So we will go ahead and leave this lobby. But yeah, that was definitely a Magello. One person decided that they was going to go for it, and there wasn't the race leader, which obviously Josh Tomo is, and he controls the restart and the pace. So yeah, that caused the whole mess, as everyone seemed to have a domino effect of who's going to go for it. But yeah, those aren't the results, of course. We are going to a restarted race now. But yeah, I'm going to have to close down the stream, guys. I will be back in about 2 minutes for part 2 of the stream once more, like last week. But please join that one again. We have to sort out the custom grid, get everyone back in the lobby. So we'll be a few moments. So you've got a bit of time to have a breather. I definitely need a breather after that. So yeah, join the stream in about 5 minutes, and